seek refuge in God from the accursed Satan. In the name of God, the compassionate and the merciful, dear brothers, with another class on Islamophobia, we are with you. One of the best ways that the West has controlled Muslims within Muslim countries and has been able to kidnap Muslims, or rather, castrate the Islamic ideology in such a way that Islam cannot expand in the world, is to portray Islam as a useless version of life. What does that mean? Once you go to the doctor, the best doctor in the world, will give you a prescription for your illness. When you come and recite the prescription every morning without putting it into practice, it means in fact you do nothing. You just read, even if you have it memorized. You have the entire prescription memorized. You recite it and you are going to sing it. The doctor's prescription, everyone says, "Oh, how beautifully that prescription is sung." But in fact, in practice, you do nothing. Question: does your illness heal just by reciting the prescription, without caring to put it into practice? And you say, "Oh, I have the prescription. I am a follower of the prescription of the best doctor in the world." But you continue with your illness and your illness will kill you someday. So you cannot come to blame that doctor or that prescription and call it useless. Why? Because everyone, all the intellectuals will tell you, look, you haven't put that prescription into practice. Let's see. Islam is a way of life. Life means Islam teaches us how to live. And the most important factor in a society is power. It means what controls the entire society. It establishes the law, educates the people, controls the economy, prevents evil, promotes good, spreads the truth, and prevents falsehood. That is government. So, Islam, let's put the core of Islam, is establishing the Islamic government, the most important part of the entire holy. The first thing the Prophet of Islam did when he emigrated from Mecca to Medina, the first thing he did, he established the mosque as the main pillar of the Islamic government. It means the mosque is the house of government. In Islam, it is so. The Friday prayer is a political prayer in which the governor addresses his people, inviting them to the piety of God, to obey God. That is called the Friday prayer. Very well. It means it is a governmental work. The Friday prayer is political. So the Prophet of Islam was the one who led the prayer, led the war, led peace, led society, led the economy, led education. He led everything, meaning the Muslim governor, who was at the same time the source of Islam and also the one who implemented Islam. So the Holy Quran, like the recipe that will save humanity, was not only recited in the mosque of the proletariat of Islam. If someone recited it, it was to put it into practice, because they wanted to live according to the Holy Quran. Therefore, the Holy Quran provided its usefulness, its benefit, like a magic recipe that will save you from your illness. Very well. So, one of the masterpieces of Western powers in Islamic countries to make us understand that Islam is invalid, useless, was to teach us that Islam should be separated from politics, which means it should only be the recipe without putting it into practice, means that Islam is useless, means that Islam does not reach society, means that Islam is limited to individual practices, making the illusion, making the face, making the voodoo, making marriage, individual things within the family, nothing more. Once you leave the house, it no longer exists. That should be Islam. The government has nothing to do with Islam. So, during the history of colonization of Muslim countries, one of the major emphases of the colonizing Western powers was that Muslims could neither bring Islam into politics nor let that happen. And for that, they made examples of Islam that entered politics and is evil and brings many consequences. And on the other hand, they always controlled the power of Muslims, fought against all the scholars who wanted to put Islam into practice. From the beginning of Islam, you will see that when the caliphs came to power, Lord Abu Bakr, Lord Omar, here in impiety, to put into practice. In the morning, the wise messenger of God says, if you seek the city of knowledge and Islamic wisdom, it is the Prophet of Islam, and the door, the main portal, is Imam Ali, peace be upon him. That is where they can enter. If the Islamic community seeks wisdom and wants to put it into practice, Imam Ali must be the caliph, the next one, successor of the Prophet of Islam, and for that they prevent him from coming to power, which means they prevent Islam from being put into practice. For that reason, they are fighting against the zone of the Prophet of Islam. So, during the time of Abu Bakr, they begin to burn the narrations of the Messenger of God. In the time of Omar, they prohibit narrating the narrations of the Prophet of Islam. In the time of Osman, they start burning the Qurans. Why all this? Because they want Islam not to enter politics. So who governs? The governor. Why? By his own account, by his own desire, and they title it as Ijtihad. I love doing it this way, like that. How do the kings of Saudi Arabia do it? Or the dictators? Dictator president of Egypt? Do you see? It means my decision is already in place of what Islamic law is. What Abu Bakr establishes, what Omar establishes, what Osman establishes, it prevents Islam from being put into practice. Secularism. The source of power cannot be God. God is not going to choose the governor who, I don't know, the people, whoever. That is the key, that the governor should not be chosen by God. So we do not accept the imams. What to say? After the plural of Islam, that secularism was the most powerful weapon to eliminate and develop Istama. Why does Yazid kill Imam Hussein? Because Imam Hussein is a wise man who puts Islam into practice. When Yazid asks Imam Hussein to make a pact with corrupt Yazid, a womanizer, fornicator, drunkard, Imam Hussein says, never will a wise man like me approve of a corrupt person like you. I will never make a pact with you. I will kill you, and we resist Mutahari. We do not make a pact with you. Imam Hussein will be sacrificed, beheaded, but he resists to not make a pact with Yazid. For what? To put Islam into practice. So, with the memory of Imam Hussein, there will always be Shia governments throughout history, until all those efforts throughout history will suddenly flourish with a great mystical wise man named Imam Khomeini, and he will found the great Islamic revolution. For the first time, he will say, let's put Islam into practice, let's bring Islam, the Quran, into politics. For the first time, it is no longer just words, the Quran in action. Then, you will see that throughout history, the enemies of Islam fought against political Islam. Yes, the Muslims were in politics. The corrupt Muslim governors carried the name of Islam only. But the teachings of the Quran were never like the laws. They were never what dominated the people of the Muslims. You will see two formats of education we have. Islamic education, which will educate a people that is servants of God, free from the oppressors. And the education of the arrogant, which will make them servants of the ego and the devil, and that they be seekers of debauchery. That is the soldier of the devil. So you will see, after Imam Ali, when Muawiyah takes the government, when he betrays Imam Hassan and takes the government into his hands, what does he do? He begins to impose that diabolical education. What do we need for that diabolical education? That the servants of God do not truly worship God, that they be negligent. For negligence, we have the package of negligence. What is the package of negligence? To forget the intellect. Because to be a servant of God, you need to reflect, think, use the intellect, and put into practice all that is the prophetic teaching. But to be a servant of the devil, you must let go of your lust, your carnal desire, and fall into perversion, into vices. For that, you need the package of the devil. What is the package of the devil? Haram music, alcoholic drinks, women. That is sex, fornication, adultery. Singing women who provoke you, excite you more, provoke you more to fall into sin. Dance, music, man and woman mixed fornicating, alcohol. Alcohol as something that takes away your intellect too, and then, nowadays, drugs. And also, haram food. Haram food consists of haram meat, stolen food, usurped, usury, bribery, all that is haram food. Haram food prepares a person to accept falsehood. It means that when a person eats pork, they prepare for fornication. That is why you will see in regions in the West where more pork is consumed, there is more fornication. Then Moabia began to establish that diabolical educational system. It is said that in the city of Kufa, which was once the capital of Mawali's government, it became such a corrupt city that men were drinkers and all married women had lovers. Married women, yes. They remained silent in adultery. Who controls that system? Muawiyah. From that system are born how many bastard children who in the future will be so violent that they will kill Imam Hussein. Imagine that is the system, based on prostitution, fornication, eating haram food and all that. So throughout history, you see that those who want to control the Islamic world will do so through that. The Holy Quran speaks of the children of Israel. It says that Pharaoh thus controlled the children of Israel. فَخَلَفَ مِنْ بَعْدِهُمْ خَلْفٌ أَدْرَاعُوا صَلَاةً وَاتَّبَعُوا شَهَبًا. After the prophets among the children of Israel, what happened that they lost God's blessing? For two deeds. They neglected the prayer. That is to say, contact with God is no longer important, following lust. Now, nowadays you look in the countries of Muslims. What percentage of young people have seen pornography? Less than the West or more? What percentage of young people are addicted to chatting? Chatting with girls. What percentage of young people are addicted to games, video games? What percentage of young people are addicted to haram music, alcohol, drugs, among other things? And now you will realize why. The governments of Muslim countries have nothing to do with Islam because they do not prevent these sins. In Turkey, you can consume alcohol, prostitution, sin, and everything. So you will see that this educational system is always fighting against an Islamic government and educational system. Do you understand me? That struggle is always permanent. That is to say, that is secularism, separating the government from the state, from religion, from God's laws. Not everyone must answer for their own deeds. Islam is something individual and all that. To give you an idea of what has happened, you can see the history of Andalusia, the Islam in Andalusia. When you read the history, you will know that Queen Isabel and King Fernando financed Christian prostitutes who went to Granada, Cordoba, Seville, among other cities, where these beautiful Christian girls to sleep with the Muslim boys. For what? To corrupt them. When a young person is corrupted, they are no longer valuable. Not a good jihadist, not dedicated to God. They are not a good defender of Islam. It means that by corrupting society, removing Islam from society, you will see that society will decline so much that it cannot even resist. That is why they insist so much on spreading the idea of LGBT, among other things, which only teaches you how to have the most present vices, the wildest desires, right. They teach you to be a lustful corrupt. In Andalusia, they began to corrupt the young people so much that it became very fashionable for the boys, Muslim boys, to sleep with Christian girls illegally. It's not that they would marry, no. So little by little, corruption increased quite a bit among them, to the point that it is said that one night when the Christians wanted to attack the Muslims, they said, let's check to see if they have been sufficiently corrupted, if they are already sufficiently perverted or not. So they sent one of the beautiful semi-nude Christian girls in front of the last caliph of Granada. So, That last caliph, when he saw that girl, was left speechless. He began to make lewd looks, and they were watching from afar. They said, "Look, the caliph is so corrupt. It means he does not practice Islam. He is looking at that girl with a lewd gaze. It means that government has come to its ruin. We can attack. When the governor is so corrupt, lustful. So they can quickly lose in war, because a self-interested person is not willing to give their life in the way of God. When you take away the concept of martyrdom from a society due to attachment to the mundane, that society is doomed to humiliation, condemned to fall into lust, vices, and perversion, to the point that it has no way out. That is why you will see many of the revolutionary countries later, they lose the concept of revolution due to so much corruption. You go to Cuba. Why has so much of the concept of revolution been lost? Ask the many American tourists who arrived on the coast. And what did they do? Many other countries that lost the concept: Egypt, Turkey, Pakistan. So you will see, corruption is the most potent poison, and all of this comes in the name of secularism and freedom. When we talk about freedom, what does it mean? Free fornication. Free fornication, free curse. What does fornication consist of? There must be freedom. There should be no family. There should be no Islamic norms. There should be nothing. That is to say, the government should have nothing to do with Islam. That is why there will be free fornication. That is why there will be free alcohol. Many sins will be free. This means the government should not enforce Islam, because in Islam there are criminal punishments for those who practice these sins in society. So you will see, when a society is sufficiently corrupt, it is already willing to receive all the humiliation and does not resist. What happened to the children of Israel, the Holy Quran says, they were killing their sons and keeping their females alive. They massacred, slaughtered the male children of the children of Israel, and kept the girls of the children of Israel alive to prostitute them, to take away their modesty, their chastity. So you will see in Iran, for example, nowadays in Iran, what is often proposed on anti-revolutionary social media is the insistence on removing the Islamic veil. They insist. Even Westerners pay girls to go remove the veil and put it on a stick in the main streets of the capital. That is to say, to oppose. The law of the Islamic veil, among many other things that is insisted on. Sharing. For example, back then when DVDs were very common, they shared free pornography DVDs in Iran, among many other things. Many channels of pornographic content. Imagine, a lot of things just to corrupt. I had seen a book that talked about a report from a CIA agent. That agent said, "We to defeat one of those called the revolution of the Ayatollahs in Iran." He said, "We must corrupt the Ayatollahs with pornography, with everything related to sex." Imagine. And that is not something new. They have always done it. If I wanted to talk about my personal experience of what they wanted to do with me, there is a long story. There are many. If you want me to tell you, I will share some. For example, once I was in one of the countries in Latin America that I don't want to name. Suddenly a lady appeared, a very well-spoken woman, and the next day she said, "I want to convert to Islam." She had just arrived and said, from one day to the next, and she will convert. It was very suspicious, very suspicious. It is good that at the very least she studied one book, 2 books, something. She should have some curiosity, some research. No, it's just that I love the way she speaks, and that's it. I said, wait, how many hours have you listened to me? Nothing. And suddenly she tells me this, no, don't come to me with that. I said, well, I want to become a Muslim, done, go ahead. And now there is nothing. She was already super active and wanted to help with everything. Ready. What a girl. What an active woman. One day, as I was leaving the Islamic Center, she approached me and said, "There are beings that the truth is, I have thought about getting married." I said, there are so many Muslim boys to marry. And she said, yes, yes, I will think about it. The next night, I left the historical center towards home, and she accompanied me and said, Sheikh, the truth is, I want to get married. I said, well, you can bring it up with the brothers. Any brother who is interested in marrying you, fine, let him go marry you. No, it's just that, Sheikh, the truth is, I want to marry someone who is a practicing person. I said, very well, it's better that you go look for a practicing person. The next night, the third night, she approached me. Hey, what? It's just that the truth is I want to get married. Very well, go ahead and get married. Why do you insist so much on me? No, it's just that the truth is I want him to be religious. What is this? Oh, it's just that I really don't know how to explain it to you. It's that I want him to be Iranian. I told her, well, go look for an Iranian. I am a married man. Done. And that's it. I ignored her. I told the director of the Islamic Center, I don't see good intentions in her. Because she knows that I am a righteous man and I no longer get involved in these things. Some time passed, she married someone. The following year, when I returned to that country, she had married 5 people. 1 month with one, then with another, then honestly, horrible that story. I told the director of the Islamic Center she is corrupting the youth of the center, and every time she breaks up with one, she starts talking ugly details about each one. It means she is destroying the respect and ethics of the Islamic Center. She is speaking badly, bad things. And another one, well, say goodbye to her. This is the format of Islamic life. If she really wants to marry someone, let her marry, period. Let her choose with whom she wants to be. It's not that every month she is with one and then she sends me screenshots of that guy, of another, and sends them to me on WhatsApp. She says, everyone wants to chat and sleep with me. I said, ma'am, have some respect. It's not that you are good abusers. I said, ma'am, I know you. Please, have some respect. Well, they fired her from the Islamic Center. They said, look, ma'am, with much respect, we do not deserve to have such a brilliant lady like you here. We do not deserve her. You are such an enlightened person, such a select person that, honestly, that place is so inferior that it is not worth your coming here. Very well. Then she, very upset, left the next year after 2 years already. When I entered the Islamic Center on the first night, I come to complain about everything, that I was expelled, and now I have to go to the Sunni Center, to the mosque and all that. I said, very well, if it is the decision of the management of the Islamic Center, it is a very good decision. Thank you. And she, upset, leaves. Very well. A couple of months later, the director of the Islamic Center communicates with me. He says, do you know what happened to her? Honestly, I don't know. Tell me. It's that she got involved in such a Sunni mosque? Yes, I remember. And there what do you remember? The doorman of the mosque indeed detected her. Actually her friend and the Egyptian imam inside the mosque, without further details. And what happened? The 3 of them were expelled from the mosque and were banned from entering the mosque again. And that Egyptian imam, instead of that center, that mosque, was sent to Centro Habita. And she is now a member of that Centro Habita. Very well. Imagine these accounts. I have many. There are other stories. The truth is, I don't want to tell you, but there are many. I have a class on how they want to corrupt the sheikhs with 70 cases, 70 real cases. During 15 years of spreading the Islam, I encountered more than 70 cases. I already have it like a little book. And I teach it at my institute. How they want to deceive and corrupt the sheikhs through women. A corrupt sheikh is worth nothing. The sheikh who only sees this is worthless. So you will see that they fight against the Islamic veil in Islamic countries. They want to corrupt. We have said the only way to free themselves from Islamic countries, from the religious and the revolution of the mullahs, of the ayatollahs, is to corrupt them with things of sex, I don't know, pornography, things like that. So what do they insist on? Weakening family ties, increasing libertinism. They talk about free union. When women are more naked in the street, well, there is more fornication, it's normal. They desire each other, they see each other, they connect, they fornicate. They fight against the Islamic veil, they fight against Walid al-Faqih, they fight against Islamic resistance. They even made a book of the Quran, but censored, which says the laws that indicate towards defense. They say jihad. All the laws of the Quran that talk about jihad are bad. They are terrorists. They are violent. They must be eliminated. They even printed a version of the Quran in Kuwait called Furqan al-Haq. In that book made by the Americans, they removed more than 300 laws from the Holy Quran that talk about defense. For example, a law from the Holy Quran that is the title of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard. It says, "Prepare yourselves, strive, have all the possible strength." That is an order from the Holy Quran given to Muslims. They must be so prepared, so strong, so powerful, that it scares the enemies of God so that they do not invade them. You will see the example, for instance, of Libya. Libya, after negotiating and giving away all the missiles it had when it was left empty-handed, had no defense. All the European countries attacked it, looted it, and stole all its oil. An example, Libya, Iran. Never in the negotiations did it say that the issue of missiles is non-negotiable, that the issue of power is non-negotiable, that the issue of judgment is non-negotiable. Everything that are factors of power that scare the West, it said, is non-negotiable. It continues to resist. It remains powerful, the country with strength. My power is non-negotiable because the Holy Quran says you must be the most powerful, so powerful that they are afraid, that they fear you. It's not that we burn you. No, we are of peace. But you must be so strong that no country, no power can desire to invade you. That it doesn't even occur to them to invade you. The Muslim must be like this. Then you will see that they are fighting against everything that is resistance. The power. The presence of Iran in Iraq, in Arabia, in Syria, in Lebanon. They all say Iran must not be present in the area. Interesting. The United States has over 1,000 military bases all over the world, but Iran cannot have that presence. Interesting. How so? What else? They said, look, we must go for the heads. What does it mean by the head? We are going to destroy a person who is a wise intellectual. So, in Islamic countries, they placed terrorist groups supported by them that went after intellectuals. In Iran, they killed dozens of the great ayatollahs of Imam Khomeini. I will name them. Ayatollah, the martyr of Askib. Ayatollah, Said Mohammed Behishti, the Ayatollahs all martyred. Ayatollah, Morteza, Mutahari martyred. The Ayatollah Shahid Mufatteh martyred. The Ayatollah Asghar Isfahani, great Ayatollah martyred. The Ayatollah Saduki martyred. The Ayatollah Madani martyred, and Ayatollah Khomeini was targeted in an attack. They wanted to kill him. Who was behind it? They only wanted to eliminate the heads. When? There is no elite in a town, a wise religious elite that understands politics. They cannot have an Islamic government. This is not only here in Iran, but in all countries that want to lead it to destruction. First, they eliminate the leaders. In Iraq, an Iraqi told me, a politician said that in Iraq, they do not allow a scientist to stand out, or they will take them to the West, or they will kill them within the country. After the American invasion of Iraq, many of the scientific elites were disappeared or killed. In many countries this happens. It means a people that must be enslaved by the West. They should not have an elite. Wise people, no, they cannot have that. When they cannot eliminate them physically, they will destroy their personality. With the media, which are the worst machine guns that will destroy a person, their personality, they will completely destroy them. With slander. With slander. I will tell you, for example, if they see that a certain sheikh is now spreading Islam, what does the sheikh do? He just talks. The dissemination of Islam in words is a wise person. In the US Senate, when they talk about a sheikh, they say it is the person who writes books, gives talks, convinces people. What else? What is the sheikh's fault? No, it is that he has books. That is a fault, right? It is that he speaks, defends the Islamic revolution. That is the fault, right? Interesting. For this reason, they say, we do everything possible to attack his personality. And then you will see many of the media in the West, misinformation in the West, starting to spread lies. Or sometimes they will link things that make no sense. For example, I will give you an example. You look for Clarín. Clarín is a source of misinformation in Argentina. Zionist. Clarín is very Zionist. It came out there, or Infobay in one of the two. Then a news story came out. In such a place, they arrested 2 smugglers. Very well. They were of Arab origin. Done. One of them, 2 years earlier, had a girlfriend. That girlfriend had converted to Islam, and among the thousands of Facebook contacts, one of them was Czech. Do you understand the danger? What happened was they arrested 2 smugglers of Arab origin. Done. One of them, 2 years earlier, had a girlfriend, and that girlfriend was a girl, I don't know, Paraguayan, Brazilian, I don't know, who converted to Islam. And that girlfriend, among the thousands of contacts she had, one was Sheikh Qomi. How will they link that? You will laugh. Why? To discredit Sheikh Qomi. That won't happen, brother. Or I don't know, a bunch of other lies for what? Why do they do it? They say, once we can't eliminate him, if we can't kill Sheikh Qomi like they didn't kill Mutahari. So we are going to discredit him. We are going to attack his personality. We are going to destroy his personality. Do you see? We are going to limit him in that way. It's another way. It means there should be no Muslim elite that can defend Islam. True Islam. Islam in command. Political Islam. Therefore, you will see everything that arises in the Islamic world from scholars. Either they will eliminate them physically, or they will destroy their personality through media, through the lies they have. What else? Look, dear brothers, you will see in the Islamic world, every time Muslims want to grow, want to put something of Islam into practice, whether in Egypt, in Pakistan, anywhere, suddenly you will see that things happen. And they will never tell you what things are happening. A coup d'etat. Coup d'etat. It comes from the sky. Yes, there is a group of angels that come from the sky and carry out a coup d'etat. For God's sake, it has nothing to do with the US Embassy, nor with the British Embassy, nor with the Israeli Embassy, nor with any of that. For God's sake, it has no contact. Ah, yes, yes. And suddenly, a military person comes to power and is going to execute all those who want to put Islam into practice. Oh, that indeed arises from them. Yes, I know, I know. Let's see, dear brothers, even when one comes to put something of Islam into practice, this has always happened in Iran. They are going to put many pro-Western journalists who will criticize it in a way that is false. They will even invent lies to discredit that person, we can say to dishonor that person. If I tell you lies, things, manifestations, soft revolutions, whatever they are called, and many other things that they have always done only in Iran, I will give you some examples. In Iran, in the years 2000, 2010, 2018, 2019, and 2020, they did many of those things. And behind all of that, you will see the hand of George Soros. This is very well known. You will see when Mohamed Morsi comes to power in Egypt. Well, he is not so dignified, but he is a person who is somewhat more in favor of Islam in practice. They will quickly remove him from power and replace him. When Ali Abdo Salih, the dictator of Yemen, is about to fall, and a group of Muslims who are politicians want to come to power, Yemen is doomed to suffer all kinds of sanctions, military interventions, total looting, total bombing, Saudi Arabian pilots, Saudi Arabian planes with Israeli, American pilots, among others, attack and bomb that country, so that it cannot exist because it has a motto. It wants to have an Islamic government, but others who are corrupt are happy with it, like the Arab Emirates, like Saudi Arabia, without any problem. It has been like this in Pakistan since they came to have something like Hamad Ali. They wanted to have some influence in politics. You will see they will set up an intelligence service of the army called IR-6 in Pakistan, which is so corrupt, very linked to the West, with all the powers of the West, and always controls the country. Always. They will place a bomb in a Sunni mosque, a bomb in a Shia mosque, always fighting. The country is never so large that it has double the number of Muslims as Iran. Pakistan has about 160, 180 million. Imagine, a country, even though it wants to reach an Islamic government, does not allow it. Do you see it? They will always keep the fight between Pakistan and India very heated. Why? Because if Pakistan achieves political stability, if there are no more coups in Pakistan, those very intelligent people can take a government and establish it. Pakistanis are very religious, more religious than Iranians. And they are very intelligent. They do not let them establish their governments, because if they manage to have a safe, prosperous country, they will set an example of Islam for the whole world. And you will see it everywhere. In Iraq, in the north, they will establish so many Mossad bases to control the Kurds as a source of power against the Iraqis. They will impose instability, insecurity, corruption, and prostitution everywhere. A woman in the United States named Masih Alinejad has just been funded with $1 million because she is promoting the removal of the Islamic veil. She invites all women and says, "Let's take off the Islamic veil." Interesting, isn't it? $1 million. That's what came out in the news. Lately, how many millions of dollars? Why do they always resist against the Islamic eruption? What is the fault of the Islamic eruption in Iran? Why must they impose so many sanctions? At the beginning, they will put a madman, Saddam Hussein, who will fight against Iran and kill so many young Iranians. During 8 years of resistance from Iran against Iraq, supported by more than 80 countries from the West, France, Russia, the United States, Saudi Arabia, they all support Saddam. The madman of Satan is not because he says here in Iran an Islamic government is rising. If we let it reach its prosperity, it can have its businesses and is setting an example of Islam, in fact. So if everyone knows the Islam that brings peace, tranquility, respect for women, elimination of poverty, justice in society, a just government of a wise, perfect like Ayatollah, and many other things, pride, autonomy, self-sufficiency. A sovereign country, an exemplary country can be. So we say we shouldn't leave him in peace. Fight, struggle, sanctions, problems, threats. Why? That is the fault of a rebellious slave because he wants to show the plan of salvation, which is Islam, to the whole world. So they have always resisted it and will continue to resist it. But we have said the most important part that they insist on is corrupting the ethical part, destroying the family. And lastly, they brought a document of. What is a document? It is very famous, which is like a document on the cultural development of education, something like that. From 2030, the year 2030. It is from UNESCO. In this document, which is international, that was imposed on Iran as a condition of the negotiations. It demands the elimination of many factors that are related to religion. Interesting, isn't it? For example, during the government of these pro-Westerners, even within Iran, they removed the names of the martyrs from the streets. You know that there are many of our martyrs as heroes. We name them on the streets, squares. For example, Martyr Beheshti Square, Martyr Mutahari Square. For example, they started, in Habita when they won in the elections. They appointed one of their own as mayor in Tehran, in the capital, and started, one by one, removing the names of the martyrs from the streets of Tehran. Why? It says that when you name the martyrs, presenting the martyrs as examples of life, it is like maintaining Islamic life, political Islam, always keeping it in their minds. When we remove all those names and are going to name other personalities, right? Naming poets, flowers, names of historians is fine, but removing the names of the martyrs because that people should not take the martyrs as heroes. Let's see what else they wanted. This happened in Iran, dear brothers. After the Islamic eruption in all Muslim countries, they did the same. They modified the books. The lessons that criticized the West were removed. The lessons that spoke of the youths who had been martyred were taken out. He was a young man, a teenager, during the war against Iraq. His name is Hussein Fahmideh. He was 3 years old, the little boy. He went and became a martyr in battle, in a heroic act. Imam Khomeini, in one of his speeches, said, "Our true leader is Hussein Fahmideh, that martyr, that young man who was martyred. That is the great hero." So, one of the classes, one of the lessons that the boys took was the story of that young man. How he integrated into the Islamic Revolution, how he went, and in the end, how he became a martyr in that heroic mission, defender of the homeland. So, they eliminated that class. They completely removed that lesson. They said, we should not teach that to the children. Even boys, I am going to tell you something that you won't believe. A relative of ours, they set up a series of schools. In these schools, they are going to teach a secularized Islam, kidnapping the children. A relative of ours who sent his little son to that school. I saw him in Iran, in my city, when I spoke to the 8-year-old boy. Listen to me, brother, listen to me. I asked him how his school was, and he said, it's fine. I asked him if they had taught him anything about Imam Hussein, peace be upon him. Listen to how the boy responded about Ali Asghar, Qasem, relatives of Imam Hussein who were martyred. The boy, 8 years old, said, the truth is, Imam Hussein should not have gone to war. I said, oh, how is that? Imam Hussein did not go to war. Imam Hussein resisted in a heroic and brave way. He said, no, Imam Hussein should not have gone to war. It was Imam Hussein's fault that they killed Ali Asghar. It was Imam Hussein's fault that they killed Al-Azhar. I remember the article that years ago, when they were in charge, they had published. It said, Imam Hussein was a victim of the violence of the Prophet in the battles of Uhud and Badr. Imagine this. That is the same word from the enemies. It says, we must eliminate everyone. They will attack Imam Hussein, Imam Hussein. And I, seeing the little boy, told him, God willing, in the future, he will be great, a hero of the country, and he will be martyred. The little boy started to cry. I swear to you, in Qom, in my city. That's how they had taught him. He said, no, I don't want to be martyred. It's like a joke, always. It's a very tender way of expressing it. When someone says, God willing, martyr, or I hope you are martyred, oh, how nice, you are wishing me happiness. Then the little boy started to cry. He said, oh, no, I don't want to die. They had taught him that way. Imagine, brothers, I don't know to what extent you have understood this format of secularizing all of Islam. I am going to tell you something, a religious man that I knew. I knew him. He had been taken to the United States for a course at some university, among a center of the Mennonites. He had taken one course and another more religious course. I knew that religious man. That course was called the Peace Course. The Peace Course. At the end of the course, when I saw them, they had truly changed their entire mindset. It made me very sad. As I said, what a pity for them. They said that in Islam, there is no law in the sacred Quran that speaks of struggle or resistance, and I said that is the law of how they interpret it. No, Islam is just like the church. If they slap you on one side, it allows you to get slapped again. They even come with a slogan saying nothing about the moon in general to go to. Nor should we support Palestine. Nor should we support relief, not just focusing on Iran. Even if they were allowed, would they talk about reaching peace with Israel? So, Zionists, brothers, dear brothers, it is a very deep, well thought out, well-financed plan. And you will suddenly find sects that are spreading that format of Istama, a hijacked Islam, a castrated Islam, a secularized Islam, the useless Islam. And Imam Khomeini, when he explains to us, says there are two versions of Islam. The Islam of the Prophet Muhammad, the true one, which is a plan, in fact, a way of life that brings blessing and happiness to human beings, liberates the marginalized of the world, fights against the arrogant of the world. That is the true Islam. And another version of Islam that Imam Khomeini titles American Islam, the North American Islam. The type of Islam that teaches you to separate politics from religion. The Islam that the Quran is only for recitation, not for practice. God's laws are to be kept within the books gathering dust and never reaching society. That is Istama. So this Islam was going to become so soft that even a soldier from the Pentagon could be a Muslim. And at a military base in the United States, they invite these soft religious figures from Egypt. They come during this Ramadan to US military bases. They perform Taraweeh. Why? Because it is an Islam that never says no to the oppressors. It is an Islam very accommodating to corruption. Just like the church. That was formed alongside Constantine. It was established as a power to brainwash the masses, to make them more enslaved, to make them more obedient to the corrupt. So, in the third lesson, we have learned how Western powers came to Islamic countries to control the mindset of Muslims by eliminating the true interpretation of Islam, taking education into their own hands, removing the scholars and the elites, and ultimately making Islam always remain in theory and never in practice. In the next class, dear brothers, we will discuss what has been the role of church teachers, priests, and religious figures, both Jewish and Christian, in the fight against Islam, in that Islamophobia. What have they done throughout history? We will talk about that in the next class. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. May the peace and blessings of God be with all of you.